A lot of you guys have been asking me to do more game reviews over on this channel, and with really not doing any since Spider-Man PS4 review last year, I thought Gears 5 would be the best way to start this new segment of Pope Plays, where I play a game and then I review it for you guys, the basic terminology and stuff. I used to actually play games when I did it, but you know, I don't have the time for that. But I do have the time to play games, put a lot of time into it, and then give you guys my subjective thoughts on it, because, again, these are my thoughts. But as you can tell, I'm a big Gears of War fan, and as these game reviews will be, there will be a little bit more laid back, not as constructive, kind of just me giving my overall thoughts, because even though I love talking about movies over on this channel, I love talking anything geeky, and what else is geeky are video games, and Gears of War is my favorite video game franchise of all time, which is why I'm going to be reviewing Gears of War 5 today, and I think a lot of you guys are going to be enjoying this. If you guys are new here, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Also, make sure to comment down below and let me know what your guys' thoughts are on the Gears 5 franchise. Are you guys a big fan of it? Are you not? Let's talk about it down below, and do make sure to stay tuned. So again, hit that like and subscribe button if you guys enjoy this, because I will be ranking every single Gears of War game tomorrow, and that's going to be a lot of fun to go back through and rank them all and give you guys some little memories, kind of some subjective thoughts to those as well, and that's kind of my way of kind of going back and re-ranking and reviewing all the Gears of War games. Without further ado, let's get started. Reviewing Gears of War 5 is going to be a little bit bittersweet moment for me due to the fact that when I had actually reviewed Gears of War 4, I was only at like maybe 150 subs. I'm at in the 8,000s now, and it's very eye-opening for me. I never thought I would actually get up to that high, so it's a little bit weird to actually be there. And when I reviewed Gears of War 4, like no one even watched my videos really. It was like my mom, my grandma, my girlfriend at the time, my friends. Who knows? I don't even know if I had a girlfriend at the time. I've been single a while. Gears of War 5 picks up a couple months after Gears of War 4, and my god, this is one of my most anticipated games of the year. Again, you tick it up to be that because this is my favorite gaming franchise of all time. If you can't tell behind me, I actually have like way more stuff than this. I actually have two actual Lancers from the game. I have a chainsaw one and a bayonet one. Yeah. I spent a lot of money on Gears of War content. For some weird reason, I don't have a Gears of War shirt. Don't know how that works. Again, Gears of War 5 picks up just a couple months after Gears of War 4, which Gears of War 4, just so everyone knows, I enjoyed it. I thought the story was good enough to get us into this world, back into it, and reestablish these new characters. That's where it came down to, is I didn't really care about those characters as much as I cared about Marcus, Dom, Baird, and Cole. What Gears of War 5 does, and I will straight up say this right now, I do have some issues with the story. Don't get me wrong on that. But there is something within the story that I will say this is the God of War of this franchise when it comes to this game. God of War reestablished itself into this franchise as kind of still being the same game as it always is bloody mayhem of everything. Really tackling a more emotional story. That's what Gears 5 does. Gears 5 is a very visually stunning video game that has great emotional beats to it. I mean, fantastic beats to it, and it really is the biggest game that they've created and crafted when it comes to a story output. The story in here is great. While the ending is a little bit abrupt, and again, no spoilers, any footage or anything I show into this review, do not worry, there won't be spoilers, because, yeah, not everyone's beaten it yet. But the thing with Gears 5, and the reason that it got me super on board into this franchise again, really in love with it, is because of the story and what they did with it. Again, I equivalent this to the God of War. This is the God of War of this franchise right now, and kind of this is the same direction that they're heading in with Gears 6. I'm 100% on board because of how much emotion they put into this, how many cutscenes they actually had inside the story, and really how much they delved into these characters. And really, there's these two open world sequences in Act 2 and Act 3. It's actually pretty open world, and you go around on this thing called a skiff. You're exploring. There's side missions to do, and there's obviously real missions to do, but it's all that time you put in, you learn more about these characters, and I really appreciated all that depth that they actually put into this game. And you know, the other Gears of War game, I think 2 and 3 had a lot of depth to it as well, but 5 really delved into not just the world, but where our characters have truly been. It goes into some stuff with Anya, and where is she? What happened to her? And I love that aspect of it. It deals with a lot of PTSD drama that JD goes through, which a lot of people were giving what JD looks like in the trailers shit, which I was one of them, but in the story context, it makes sense. That's what I was waiting for. But really, the main focus of focusing on that cliffhanger at the end of Gears 4, which I will spoil that. If you have not played Gears 4, that's your fault. Kait turns out to be the granddaughter of Queen Mara from Gears of War 3, and they dive into what the locusts are in this game, and they really dive into that whole ancestral stuff. And ever since Gears 4's cliffhanger, I was like, oh my god, when is the next Gears of War game? And I'm really not let down when it comes to the story aspect, because again, it does feel like a God of War. With the amount of cutscenes they have in here, with the amount of emotional beats in here, it feels like you're actually playing inside a movie, and that's what I've wanted Gears of War to be. Usually it's just shoot, shoot, gang, gang, small cutscene here, gang, gang, shoot, shoot, big, big thing here, and usually the time that's how it is, but there are those subtle moments, those smaller moments that I take with these characters throughout this game that I really much appreciated, and I have to give a major props to the Coalition for that. I do have to mention one thing when it comes to the story. Now, I'm not the biggest co-op person. When it comes to certain modes, it will be, but when it comes to my story stuff, I like to play my story one time through by myself and then kind of go through in co-op. I truly don't love, I like being able to focus on just myself. When I was younger, I used to be more co-op, but I decided to go through the game a little bit in co-op with some randoms and one of my friends, and I have to say the co-op for the story is a little bit disappointing. So it's 3-person co-op, but you play as Jack, like the third person will play as Jack, the robot. And while in the game, when you're playing solo, Jack's actually really helpful, helps you a lot. You can upgrade him. There's a lot of RPG elements to it. Not the best. Don't consider this an RPG, but there's a couple of RPG elements to it, but for the most, it's pretty surface level on that part. The thing with this issue, though, is when you play as Jack, it's pretty boring when you're playing as Jack in the campaign. Not gonna lie. Like, it's pretty boring when it comes to playing as him, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. And I think marketing as 3-person co-op is kind of bullshit. I honestly didn't even know it was 3-person co-op till I actually started seeing more trailers coming up. And I think it's a little bit of mismarketing there. I think 2-person co-op is still solid. It's a lot of fun. But when it comes to people who are major co-op fans, the reason that I love Gears of War 3 so much because it's 4-person co-op. And I love that going through with 4 different people. And I wish they would actually go back to that dynamic. But at the same time, I also really like that they're kind of going and shifting back between 1 and 3, kind of keeping that really heavy story perspective with the emotion, but also keeping that horror perspective that the first one had. I don't know. I'm a little bit mixed on that, but I do have to bring it up because I think there are some people who are looking for a co-op game, and a lot of people have been freaking the fuck out about that. Gears 5 story being a very well done and absolutely one of my favorite stories in the Gears of War franchise. Probably to date, this is my favorite one. I think there's a lot of emotional beats to it, and truly enough, where it's leading to in Gears of War 6, I am so excited about. I'm so excited where they're taking it, and there's one thing towards the end of the game where I was like, oh my god, they made you choose that, and I'm really curious to know how they're going to implant that into the next game, but we'll find out. With a Gears of War game, it's not just the story that people come to, it's the gameplay, it's the online, it's all the different modes inside here, and Gears 5, the gameplay is always solid. This is a very polished game. I really haven't encountered any glitches, besides some of the achievements not unlocking, but that's whatever. When it comes down to the gameplay is smooth, it's polished, it's easily the best that Gears of War has been, and I think every time a Gears of War game comes out, we do always say that this is the best Gears has ever been, gameplay-wise, because the gameplay is so strong in Gears of War 5, but it's the modes. When you come down to versus, I really like versus, and in general, I just love killing people with the Nasher, the shotgun, the freaking chainsaw. It's always the best, and all the wide assortment of new weapons that you get in here are great. They added some flashbangs, which I do think are a little bit annoying, but thank God they don't last too long, but they do. The way that you use them is the way that you kind of have to use them, and that's the thing about Gears, is it's kind of a learning curve to when you're playing the online, because so many people, even if you're jumping in from another Gears game, you still have to kind of learn what the new maneuvers are, the new movements, and one of my things that I'm learning is that you can actually melee. Like, that's something big that I'm still not used to. I'm still in like Gears of War 3, Gears of War 2 time when I'm used to just chainsawing. There's no meleeing in those games, but in this one, there straight up is meleeing with a knife, and that thing helps a ton. Versus is great. There's a new arcade mode where it's actually like character based, like each character you pick has a different weapon, and while I haven't been playing much of that mode, I think it is quite a bit of fun and more relaxing than Versus. Versus, I will get pissed off at times and start rage quitting. Maybe perhaps I'm not rage quitting, but I am screaming at the TV going, what the f***? Takes me back to the days when I was like 10 playing a video game that I should not have been, and I was screaming at the TV too. Yeah, Gears of War, you do that to me. My main things about Gears of War that I've absolutely always loved is Horde, and this is where the co-op is for me. This is where that teamwork works in, and this is my favorite mode to play in co-op. I love Horde. It's so intense. Getting away 50 is one of the most satisfying things I think in any video game, no matter what difficulty is. Obviously, the harder it is, the more satisfying it's going to feel, but I absolutely love what they did with Horde in this. I love the building structures. I was not a fan of Horde in Gears 4, but Gears 5, I'm way more of a fan of it. I like the building structures in it, and I like that it kind of combines Gears 3 and Gears 4 kind of perfectly within Horde mode to where I'm just so into it. And actually, I'm already gotten the way 50, so yeah, I'm the best at Horde, man. Kidding, I'm really not, but I really like all the modes in there, and again, it kind of goes back to each character has their own slots. You level them up as that, and again, it's just so much fun being able to do that and really customize. There's so many things to do in Gears 5, which brings me to the last mode that they added, which is Escape. Now, this is easily my least favorite mode so far. I've put maybe 4 hours into it, and I haven't and it hasn't locked me in yet. But I know that they are just saying that you can actually customize maps and stuff, which I tried. I'm just not the best at. But a lot of these different things, it's kind of like their zombie mode's like a different story. It's fun, it's cool, and they're really quickly paced. But for me, it doesn't keep my attention as, say, a Horde or a Versus does. So for right now, I have to chalk that one up to being a little bit just okay, but I didn't come to Gears for that, and I think some people will find its niche audience within Escape. It's a cool mode, I just think there needs to be more to it, and maybe down the road when they start updating it, there will be more. I'll give you guys my final verdict on this film. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, comment down below, let me know what your guys' thoughts are on Gears of War 5, and of course, guys, thank you guys so much for watching this, and if you guys are considering on helping this channel a little bit more, thank you to all my Patreon supporters who are already doing that. If you want to become one of them, go check out the link down below. You guys can get tons of other geeky content. Gears of War 5 is the pendulum of this franchise so far. It really, Gears of War 4 locked you back in, but Gears 5 is the God of War of what everything is. The way that they furthered out the story in this even more, bringing more cutscenes, making it more emotional, really made this for a satisfying game. It's the most polished Gears game to date. I love all the visual cues, and just in general, those open world segments is a little bit of a breath of fresh air. At first, I wasn't a fan of them, but as it went on, I started really appreciating what they were doing with it as they kind of intersected into these little level segments and kind of went back to those horror tones. The bosses are ferocious. The character development is there and very prevalent and strong. I loved everything they did with each and every character in here, and the way that it ends, while a little bit abrupt, I'm excited for Gears of War 6, hands down. It's probably going to be like 3 or 4 years till I get it, but it's going to be a great wait for 3 or 4 years to see how this new trilogy concludes. Horde mode is fantastic. Versus is better than ever. And Escape, while a new mode, is just okay. I think there's stuff to still be added into there, and of course, the 3-person co-op, I think, is a big issue inside here as well. Just bring back 4-person co-op. That was like the best thing in Gears of War 3. With all that said, I'm going to give Gears of War 5 a 9.3 out of 10. And I know a lot of you guys are like used to my scoring. They're like, why did you give it like an A, a B, or a C? When it comes to video games, I like to score it out of 10. I think it's a little bit easier for me personally. Guys, that's my review on Gears of War 5. Make sure to come back tomorrow and look at my ranking of all the Gears of War games. Thank you guys again so much for watching this. And of course, until next time, stay classy.